Hello, I'm Dr. Sandal, founder of Atma Clinic. The modern medical system is falling apart. To fix it, we need to change how we think about health, illness, and the practice of medicine. Welcome to the show, Talking Shift, where we discuss radical new perspectives on health, illness, and the practice of medicine. Joining me again is a very dear guest. This is my mother, Gopi Sandal, who is a lineaged spiritualist who has a extensive, many decades practice. And she also is a teacher of yoga and has done that for such a long period of time, she got to a point of teaching teachers. So she is a grand master in every sense. So welcome, Mom. Great to have you back on the show.
Wonderful to be here.
So today we're talking about yoga. And one of the interesting questions that I was asked recently is how does yoga relate to health and medicine? A lot of people think of yoga as being on the mat and you do some particular strenuous poses and you get the yoga butt and life is good. And one of the things that I think anybody who's ever taken yoga classes with yourself or studied yoga with you understands is that yoga is an entire system. It's so much more than just the asanas or poses. What is your thought on that question? How does yoga relate to health?
Yeah, well, like you say, in the West, we generally think about the yoga asanas, the postures, and that's a start. Helps us on so many levels with flexibility, with strength, and just to begin calming our mind. And there's so many deeper levels, even physically, that we're helping to open up the space for the organs to work well with each other, and we're so all the systems of the body will work more nicely.
It's kind of a way to wring things out and make space and ease and the physicality.
Yes, and so we we tend to get blockages in the energy meridians of the body. And there's so many different disciplines that address that. Many people don't realize that yoga does that for us.
Interesting.
That we're, in normal life, we're avoiding discomfort. But in the yoga practice, we're actually looking for those places where we feel a little resistance and then learning how to open those up so that, and an interesting thing happens that your body gives you signals about how to do that, how to find more ease, and to find a nice balance between pushing through and doing nothing, so that you become tuned in to the sensation of your body that's indicating, where those blockages are. And
that's both an energetic and a physical phenomenon.
Yes. So then when we learn to do that with our body, it teaches us how to do that in our life. How to relax and go with it and
so kind
understand.
Of a psychological ease.
Yes.
Akin to that physical ease that people have practiced. It's like, okay, that applies further.
Yeah. So helping with stress and then, ultimately, we want to find deep contentment in our life, and that's going to bring health, right? And so we have many challenges. Each of us has particular challenges that we're facing, and so this practice helps us to come to a point of facing those, moving through them with comfort, so that we find more just ease in our lives. And
It strikes me as a system that builds awareness. It's a practice of awareness, first in the physicality, then in the mental, and then even in the spiritual. There's a phrase that I have always appreciated, that yoga is there to make the body quiet. So that you can take the next step, which is pranayama or yogic breathing, which is there to make the mind quiet.
yes.
So that you can take the next step, which is meditation. And all of that is a sort of stair step, or a sort of system, a carefully thought out system of how do we help people walk forward in their health. And every step of the way, there's this increased awareness. And I think about that a lot in the practice of medicine. You know, the function of medicine is to generate health. Well, why do we do that? Ultimately, we want people to be healthy because if people are healthy, they can actualize. If people are healthy, if their health is quiet, if their body and their mind are quiet, they can do the thing that they're meant to do.
Yes.
And that's incredibly powerful. We live, I think, in a society that in many regards is explicitly disempowering. And yoga and good health attention awareness are both tools of building consciousness. And consciousness awareness is naturally empowering. We go, oh yeah, okay, I could change that because I see it. Like there's that old saying, knowing is half the battle, right? I think that's that's kind of an underappreciated saying.
Yes,
Cool.
and even before the asana, in the ancient tradition of Ashtanga yoga, they begin with yamas and niyamas, certain observances, and so like nonviolence, truthfulness, non-stealing, conservation of your vital energies, and non-hoarding, like not holding on to things that you don't need. And then the next level, niyamas, is a practice like purifying your own self by cleanliness internally and externally, the mind and the emotions and the body. And
so this is an intricate system. I mean,
Yes.
I think people in the West, they see it as an exercise and an exercise class, and that's cool. But to your point, there are scriptures and tomes written on all of this, and the nuance and the, it's like, I think the depth of Sanskrit writing that has been done on yoga practices, I mean, it would fill, it literally fills libraries. There's so much scientific speculation on how to improve our health state through our own grinding and attention, or tapasya, which translates to austerity or heat. We go through this process ourselves of refining ourselves. And that's just neat. It's such an inherently empowering concept. People are so used to, again, maybe the yoga system in the West is maybe a little troublesome in this way. People are used to going to someone to tell them how to do it. And you go to a group class and there's 20 people and it's like, stretch, do this, do that. And people are like, ow, I can't do it. But if you go and work with a teacher who's not there to, turn on music and, space out, but they're like, I'm here to teach you this practice, it refines. It's this discipline that people can really get into. It's cool.
So, yeah, so then, the classical system is bringing us from the kind of calming our external engagement with the world, making it more peaceful and purifying our own body and mind, and then gradually helping us to bring our awareness inwards. And so there's this nice analogy they have in India of the musk deer. Apparently, it exudes a very beautiful fragrance, a musky fragrance. And so this deer is looking for the fragrance. He'll like wander through the forest trying to find something that will, bring more happiness, not realizing that it's coming from within. And so, so that is what the whole process is, helping us to learn how to find happiness within ourselves. Because ultimately, it's not going to come from having everything the way we want it in the world, because that's all going to change.
Right.
But there is something that we can totally be in control of, and that is if we practice our own mind, and ultimately to know who I am, that I am a spiritual being, that I am the witness of my life. So to find real health means to know who I am, that ultimately I am the observer of my life, and I am a spiritual being. And so contentment is going to come from getting in touch with my real self. And
we have to know what we are. We have to know the destination if we're going to arrive there.
And beyond that, we want to have higher consciousness like that, but also we are as a conscious being, we actually need love. We're hardwired to want to experience deep love. And so that's what we're looking for. I mean, and we have to ask these questions. What am I looking for, to really come to that point of realization, I guess.
So yoga becomes this sort of process of how do we ask increasing layers, okay, what am I? What makes me feel comfortable? What makes me uncomfortable? Go to the next layer, go to the next layer, go to the next layer. And after all these iterations, people come to this place of deep empowerment, and they come to this place of saying, okay, I think I'm understanding at least to some degree what I am. And the more that we can bring people to these empowered states, the healthier they're going to be. Because when you understand what you are and what you aren't, then you can align yourself with practices that engender that reality. So if people only had, let's say, 10 minutes a day to work on yoga, how might they start? How might they start this process? Understanding that it's not just asanas and poses, but it's this big, interesting, complicated science that can seem daunting. If people only had 10 minutes a day to get into yoga, what might they do?
I recommend that we start with moving into just a handful of the yoga postures, very mindfully. Mindfully, yeah, and pay attention to the sensation that's arising, and practice breathing deeply. When that is the element that helps with transformation of energetically, helps you unblock. Yeah, and then
and so choose some asanas that just speak to them. Be mindful of how that feels. And as you're in those asanas, breathe and be mindful of that.
Yes.
Just that awareness.
It might be, if you're not sure what ones you wanted, you could choose something that is forward bending, something that's a mild back bend, something that's twisting, something that turns you upside down a little bit, and to start in a very mild way, and that feels just right for your body. And then very gradually you'll become addicted to that process, and be able to pay more attention to the breathing part. And I enjoy adding some mantra meditation while I'm doing that. So my mind's not going off every place else. It is,
focusing it.
Yeah, focusing. And so... That would be a start, and then to do some simple breathing pranayama practice, something, really focusing on a very full inhalation and exhalation, beginning to bring awareness to breathing from that deeper solar plexus area.
Most people only breathe from their chest.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is certainly something maybe unusual in the West. You observe a baby breathing, they breathe from their belly, this is their default. And for some reason or another, through the course of our culture and our acculturation, people really become dominant chest breathers. It's rare to get a full breath, bringing the diaphragm down.
So
and people are just unconscious of that. So they bring that consciousness, they're like, oh, what? That's strange. Like, maybe I need to bring this further down. Like, how does that feel?
Yeah, that can be a game changer. So if you just lie on the floor, put your legs up on the wall, and put your hands just above your navel, and let that expand like a soft balloon with the inhalation. Some people don't have that expansion with the inhalation, but you can practice like that. Inhaling and then exhaling, letting it deflate, and relax. Like, tell yourself, relax deeply, relax more deeply. Let yourself
push for that a little bit. Almost kind of an oxymoron, but work on the relaxation.
And then the mind tends to follow as the breath becomes more calm, and then the ancient yogis, they learned to meditate on the divinity within the heart. So just like we were saying, the musketeer is looking outside, but actually the happiness is within. So the source of love is actually right there within our heart. Every living entity is
connected
has
to God through that.
Yes, God, or their dearmost friend who's with them throughout eternity, is very closer than our own breath. So
it's a neat meditation.
Yeah, and in that Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, he actually mentions that it's 123. He says that all these different practices leading to samadhi, they are all coming with through devotion to Ishvara, or divinity, and so it's kind of an elevator method for. So all of these, to really feel in touch with yourself and with divinity, who is in your own heart, that's going to help lower our blood pressure and calm our tensions and help us solve all the myriad of problems that we have in our life by just centering and calming and getting in touch with our reality, the beautiful.
This is a big shift, thinking about systems of awareness, practices of consciousness as a way to improve our health is a huge shift from mainstream medical conceptions, where we go to someone and they tell us what the problem is and what the solution is, and we take a pill, and that's kind of the end of that. And the reality is that doesn't work very well. It's very superficial. I think a lot of people are daunted. When we think about shifting awareness of yoga specifically, a lot of people are daunted to go deeper than the asanas. They're like, well, I like exercise. But when they start hearing about all the self-reflection and the leaning into the discomfort to build awareness and not going too far, all of that just begins to sound like a lot of work to people. And I think one shift that I would love to see generally happen in our population is for people to be able to be excited about that labor. Like, hey, yes, that's maybe work, but also it's joyfully done because it gives us such a juicy result. It's such an amazing outcome. And we live in a culture of cynics for many different reasons, and I'm an advocate for skepticism. I think that's always healthy. But people hear about these sort of yoga, the deeper yoga practices, and their skepticism or cynicism sets in. And my thought on all those things is that it's good to be skeptical, but also one has to be honestly skeptical, which means one has to run the experiment themselves. One has to suspend the disbelief and say, well, okay, I did really give it an honest try. And one of the wonderful things about what you're describing is that anybody who does that, anybody who just starts with an asana, and they're maybe doing a forward bend, a backwards bend, and a twist, stop and feel that, and then focus on your breath and become conscious of that and stop and feel that. And then watch where your mind is wandering and stop and feel that. It takes 5 minutes, but anybody who does that will go, whoa, there's a whole lot more going on in here and I can control that. So if anybody is listening to this and you haven't tried those things before, just pause the video and do those things because it's amazing. We're all hoodwinked by our cultural conception. Our first instinct is, I'm just not going to do it. Okay, but why? And a lot of times the answer is because it works too well. Our culture is like, no, don't do the things that work too well. We don't want you to be too healthy. We don't want you to be aware. We don't want you to be empowered. And so I really encourage everybody just to take the time to just try that. And the experiment proves itself very quickly. We learn a lot about ourselves. And then exactly like Gopi is mentioning, then we get the opportunity, the invitation to lean in and build on that. And then it starts to get pretty amazing, pretty quick.
So we like to say yoga meets you where you're at. So that's what it means, that you start by just like feeling, what's going on and observing, how the mind is reacting, and then gradually, by steady, simple practice like that, you begin to notice something shift.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful. I think if whatever tools we can bring into our culture to help people become more conscious, that makes them more empowered. And then that means that more people can do good things. And that lets more people become conscious and empowered. And we start this really, really sweet cycle in our society. And I'm just waiting for critical mass to hit on that. That's a lot of what we do in medicine. We're trying to help people be healthy so that their body doesn't occupy all their attention. Same thing with their mental health. We want people to feel empowered so that they can go forward and do good things. And that does take some work, but it's so wonderfully worth it, so immediately worth it for the person who's doing it, for everybody who's helping them with it.
And it's going to improve our relationships with all people, because when you begin to accept yourself as you are right now, then you stop judging other people. You can learn to accept them as they are instead, and so much of our attention goes to hoping and trying to get people to meet our expectations.
Right, yeah.
But if we can just love them unconditionally.
Turn our focus inwards, do that work.
Do that for ourselves.
Rather than trying to get other people to do their work.
Love ourselves. Find the source of love, and then, it's going to come out. Yeah.
That's exciting. Makes me hopeful. I want to see this all come together, and the more I think we have conversations, and guys, if you are watching this and you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. Let us know what you guys are interested in. What are the barriers to these things for you personally, and how can we have more conversations to help unlock this type of growth broadly for culture, for you as an individual, because we all collectively have a responsibility to help move things in that good direction. Mom, thanks for joining me, as always. And I'll see you again soon.
All right.